Alright, here is the world's famous Dynamite review from this past Wednesday. Will Ospreay opened up the show. He cut a promo to a big pop. Will talks about competing in Arena Mexico last week and the fans lifting him up. Will recalled getting a call last year about his grandfather passing and he never got to see Will wrestle again or marry his beautiful wife. Will talked about the tough love his grandfather showed him. Will made a point that no matter what's going on in his life, he'll leave every single bit of his body into the ring for you. Will mentioned his brutal street fight last week and he loved being in it. And it's also risky, so close to all in. Will mentioned Omega is backstage tonight, so he's not going to do anything. And then Don Callis made his appearance. Callis talked about how on December 2nd, 2020, Omega and Callis screwed Jon Moxley to win the AEW World title. Callis claimed Omega had a run with the AEW World title that is unmatched in the company's history. Omega also had the belt collector gimmick, and he also put TNA on the map. Callis said Omega made the mistake. Callis said Omega made the mistake of thinking he can do it without Callis. Callis then stabbed Omega in the head, and he did more damage to Omega's life than the difficultitis. Callis talked about being in the corner of Ospreay when he beat Omega for the first time. Diverticulitis. The Don Callis family, Mark, Jake, Rocky, and Trent attacked Ospreay. That led to Kenny Omega making the save with a metal pipe. And then the DCF guys attacked one by one, so Ospreay could take them out, and Davis avoided a pipe shot, so he wasn't hit by it. And then Omega teased hitting Ospreay, but then he stopped himself. Omega said he feels everything that Will says, and Will wears his heart on his sleeve. Omega said he warned Will about Don Callis and Jon Moxley, while MJF is a problem for both. Omega said that Will is sloppy and he loses everything. But this isn't the man that Omega wants to fight at Wembley. Omega told Will that he can't help him like this again, because from here on out it's just me and you. And the tension builds between the two of them. And then the announcers talked about the Continental Cup featuring 16 wrestlers that started on Collision. The semifinals are on the 26th of Dynamite in Glasgow, and then the finals are on August 30th. Whoever wins the Continental Cup is the Continental Champion. The Continental Champion, Jon Moxley, is in the tournament. This company has way too many tournaments. Way too many. That was MJF versus Mike Bailey versus Nick Wayne for the number 2 spot in the Casino Battle Royal. MJF walks out, cuts a promo near the table. He says he's not only the only one true champion, but he's also the undisputed champion of AEW. After some back and forth, Wayne takes down Bailey, then follows up with the top Suicina, and then MJF got the win, so which means he'll be the number 2 entry in the Casino Battle Royal. And Andrade is his number 1 spot. So at least it kind of tells a story right here. So, because Andrade and MJF have beef. And MJF did a promo with his version of the AEW World title, saying he's the champ who never loses. MJF said there's nothing anybody can do to stop him. Andrade music hits, but he wasn't there since MJF reminded us that he whooped Andrade last week, and MJF claimed Omega and Ospreay are terrified of him. And MJF said you'll find out the hard way that he's the one true champion. So another great promo by MJF. He always kills it, so that's good. The Mind of Indian duo, Omega May and Linda Cross. They did a promo from a bar. Cross said the biggest momentum moment would be Divine Dominion's massacre. Bane and Cross picked up beers and dropped them as a toast to say they had a good run. So, yeah, so. And then next was first round match, Jay White versus David Finlay. Jay White won. It was a solid match. So, and then we'll hear from Hangman Page, Brody King, and Bandito. The new Trios champions were interviewed in the ring by Tony Schiavone. Bandito and King talked about being the champions. Hangman wanted to speak a little Espanol, but Swerve Strickland interrupted him. Swerve talked about Brodito and Hangman being Trios champions, saying they had nothing in common except for him. Swerve said he beat Bandito at Double or Nothing. Swerve talks about how the last time he saw Brody, he was laying face down in a pool of his own blood. Swerve mentioned his history with Hangman. Swerve reminded us about Hangman losing his chance to go after the world title again. Page said that Swerve doesn't have much time to talk about the results. Page claimed Swerve did some heinous crap this year and he has nothing to show for it. Then Ricochet came in. They bragged about how he led the demand to become the World Trios Champion. Ricochet claimed Tio's shoulders were not on the mat for the 3 count, so there should be an instant. Ricochet said they demand a rematch. Ricochet told Swerve to get out of there because there are 9 guys out here that hate him, so Ricochet told Swerve to get out of this arena. Swerve walked towards the back. Swerve said that Brody King may be doing the barking, but Ricochet's the one that's the B. And then Swerve went to the back. Paige invited Ricochet to come into the ring. Ricochet said he'll do it on their time, so they backed away. And then Willow was doing a sit-down interview with Renee, but Willow was attacked by Mercedes. Renee hit Willow with the women's Owen Hart Cup title, and then Renee yelled at Willow how she likes to smile, so Renee would give her something to yell about. Willow called Willow a dumb bee and left. And then it was Kevin Knight with Don Callis versus Chris Jericho. So there was a botch in this match so Jericho powerbombs Knight from the ropes. He gets a 2 count. He then applies the walls of Jericho. Callis blasts him with a screwdriver. Knight hits the coast to coast. The spot with the screwdriver was so bad. Jericho applied the walls of Jericho in the middle of the ring. The referee was in position to make sure she didn't see any interference, and Jericho was moving his head to the right so that Callis could do the spot. That led to Callis walking into the ring, but then Jericho told him to get out. So Callis walked out, and Jericho walked over to Callis so that while Jericho still had Kevin Knight and Walls of Jericho. So that Callis could hit Jericho with a screwdriver. It looked ridiculous and phony. Took a screwdriver and a low blow for Knight to beat a 55-year-old Chris Jericho, and Knight winning was the obvious result. He has to feud with Darby Allin. So yeah, that botch looked really bad. And then Chris Statlander was the Via Van. It's a 3-minute win. Squash City. I guess Statlander needed a win. And then after the match, the legendary Mick Foley pointed out his lovely doll and Noel in the crowd. Mick talked to Tony Khan, and he informed Chris should be in a 4-way match for Maya World's TBS title with Persephone and Hikaru Shida. Chris said she felt ready to fight. Chris said Maya deserves the TBS title, but she'll shove Persephone and Shida's heads up their own arse for every belt shot and sneak attack they did to her. Chris said she'll make them pay. That led to the next tag team match. Persephone, Hikaru Shida, Thunder Rosa, and Maya World. Thunder Rosa and Maya World got the win in 11 minutes. And Maya World keeps getting better every match she does, so that's good for her. And then after the match, Chris Statlander congratulated Maya World and Thunder Rosa on the win. And Darby Allin was featured in a video backstage promo. Allin said he has no regrets about his world title run since he was defending it every single week. Allin said Knight is defending his title a lot and he beat Chris Jericho, but he didn't do the right way. Allin said that he's facing Kevin Knight in a Falls Count Anywhere match at All in London for the TNT title. Allin said if Knight can beat him at his own game, then Knight will live up to the potential that Allin saw in him all those years. I think that match would be a really good match. Kyle Fletcher was with Don Callis for an interview. Kyle said that he defended his title in 3 different countries, so he's looking forward to Wembley. Callis mentioned a former champion who's not got a rematch. Kyle didn't want to defend against Tezeshka, so Callis said yes, he is. Callis mentioned another former champion he has not had a rematch was Okada. Okada walked in. Callis said that All In is Fletcher versus Tezeshka versus Okada. Callis said with Okada and Fletcher working together, there's a 100% chance of the Don Callis keeping the title. Kyle wasn't thrilled. Okada said the only thing that matters is the international title. Stays in the family. So that should be another good match. And then next was the main event. Jon Moxley versus Jack Perry, with Jon Moxley getting the win at 16 minutes. Perry tries for a pile driver but fails, gets a 2 count with the high stakes. Perry applies the snare trap. Moxley fights back and applies the bulldog choke. Jack Perry gets up to his feet but is back down. In the end, Jon Moxley locks in the bulldog choke, leading to Jack Perry passing out. The referee calls for the bell. So Dynamite had a lot of good matches, with some entertaining matches, but it wasn't as good as last week's Dynamite. So yeah, so that is All In's looking out to is shaping to be a decent card. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be more matches added later on. So I'll probably do some gameplay. I still gotta make clips for my last video that I did, the last stream. So I'll probably do some of that, and it might play some Final Fantasy later.